Nice ring, Miles. I looked down at my left hand and realized I was still wearing the stupid silicone wedding band my cousin had slipped onto my finger at his reception Saturday night. Leah from accounting leaned against the conference table. Don't tell me you disappeared for one weekend and came back married. The quarterly operations meeting hadn't started yet. Half the regional managers were still arguing with the coffee machine, so I gave her the answer that required the least explanation. Yep, got married. Seriously, beautiful ceremony, very private. Who is she? I opened my mouth to invent a name. Behind me, a woman said very calmly, divorce her. Nobody laughed. I turned. Serena Wren, CEO of Northmere Hospitality, stood just inside the glass conference room with one hand around a folder and the other holding the green apple slices she ate whenever she expected a difficult meeting. She was 34, terrifyingly good at remembering numbers, and famous inside the company for never saying anything she hadn't already decided she meant. Her eyes dropped to my left hand, then returned to my face. Divorce her, she repeated. I'm your only wife. The room went so still that I could hear the coffee machine finishing someone's cappuccino. Leah slowly backed away from me. I stared at Serena. She bit into an apple slice. Serena, I said, I was joking. I wasn't. Dana Brooks, our head of HR, walked through the door at exactly the wrong moment. She stopped, looked at me, looked at Serena, then closed her eyes for 2 seconds. Wonderful, she said. My office, both of you. Now that was how our quarterly operations meeting ended before it began. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Dana while Serena remained standing beside the window. Dana folded her hands. Miles, confirm something for me. You are not married. No, the ring. My cousin's idea of comedy. Dana turned towards Serena. And your statement? Serena didn't hesitate. Accurate in intent, premature in wording. I almost laughed. Dana did not. Serena, you are his CEO. I am aware. He works in a division you directly oversee. I'm also aware. And you just told an employee to divorce an imaginary wife because you consider yourself his only acceptable spouse. That is an unnecessarily emotional summary. It is almost word for word what happened. Serena glanced at me. I knew that look. It was the same look she used when a hotel renovation came in 4 weeks late and someone tried to blame weather. Except this time there was something under the calm surface. Fear that made the situation worse because I liked Serena more than I had ever intended to. Which was exactly why I reached into my laptop bag and placed a white envelope on Dana's desk. Serena's attention snapped to it. Dana frowned. What's that? My resignation. Serena's apple slice stopped halfway to her mouth. I had planned to submit it Friday. My joke had simply moved the timetable up 4 days. I'm leaving Northmere at the end of the month. I said, I've been saving for years to buy a small property up near Door County. I found one. If the deal closes, I'm done managing hotels for other people. Serena put the apple down. No. I looked at her. That's not a CEO decision. Her jaw tightened. I mean, she said, choosing each word more carefully. Do not make a permanent career decision because of something I said 10 minutes ago. I'm not. This decision is 3 years old. That landed. Serena turned toward the window. Dana took the resignation but didn't open it. You've discussed this with anyone? Marcus knew I was looking at property. Marcus Flint, our COO, had been my boss before Serena reorganized operations 6 months earlier. Dana glanced at Serena. Something passed between them. I noticed what? Dana opened a drawer. She pulled out another folder. Serena said, Dana? Dana ignored her and slid the folder toward me. On top was an HR conflict management memo. My name was on it. So was Serena's. The date in the corner was 12 days ago. I read the first paragraph twice. It proposed moving final authority over my role from Serena to Marcus, removing Serena from my compensation decisions and documenting a formal recusal from any employment matter involving me. I looked up. You filed this before today? Serena's expression barely moved. Yes. What? Dana answered before she could. Because Serena informed me 12 days ago that after you no longer reported into her chain, she intended to ask you to dinner. The little joke I'd made in the conference room suddenly felt much less funny. I turned towards Serena. You were planning this? I was planning to ask one question. You reorganized reporting lines to ask me out. No, I proposed a reporting change because I knew you were considering leaving. And if you stayed, I refused to create a situation where you had to wonder whether saying no to me would affect your career. That was so reasonable it almost made me more suspicious. Serena did not do spontaneous. She had once postponed a hotel opening because the evacuation plan used two different fonts. This woman planned exits from rooms she hadn't entered yet. So the wife thing, I asked. Her eyes dropped to my ring again. That was spontaneous. Dana sighed and professionally catastrophic. Serena accepted the criticism with a small nod. Then she looked at me. You said you found a property. I should have known she wouldn't miss that. Bay Lantern. Her face changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. Don't sign anything Thursday. My stomach tightened. How do you know I'm signing Thursday? Serena reached for the folder she had carried into the conference room. She removed 3 photographs and placed them in front of me. They showed the rear foundation of Bay Lantern. One had a long crack running beneath a recently painted wall. The second showed moisture damage. The third showed temporary steel supports hidden behind storage shelves. I had never seen those pictures. The seller's inspection package doesn't include these, Serena said. Where did you get them? Northmere reviewed Bay Lantern 6 weeks ago as a possible acquisition. I stared at her. She continued, we rejected it. Why? Because the seller concealed structural work and an unresolved shoreline setback issue. Thursday was supposed to be the day I signed a letter converting my purchase offer from conditional to firm. Serena pushed the photos closer. If you want to leave Northmere, leave. If you want to buy an inn, buy one. Her voice dropped, but don't buy that one until you know what they aren't telling you. Then she picked up my resignation, looked at it for half a second, and set it back on Dana's desk instead of touching it again. I won't stop you. She headed for the door. I spoke before she reached it. Serena. She turned. You really meant what you said in there? Her composure finally cracked just enough for me to see the answer before she gave it. Yes. Then she added, unfortunately, I also meant the part about being your only wife, and walked out. By noon I had 2 problems. The first was that the plan I had spent 3 years saving for might be a financial disaster. The second was worse. The most controlled woman I had ever met had apparently been quietly arranging her professional life so she could ask me on one date. And now that I knew, I had 26 days left at Northmere. The Bay Lantern seller denied everything. That crack was cosmetic, he told me over the phone. I was standing in the parking garage beneath Northmere headquarters, staring at Serena's photographs on my tablet. Cosmetic cracks don't usually come with temporary steel supports. A long silence followed, then he blamed a contractor, then the weather, then the previous owner. I canceled Thursday's signing before he finished his 4th explanation. That solved one question. Serena had been telling the truth. It created another. How much did she know about my life? I found her at 7 that evening in an empty executive conference room marking renovation schedules with her favorite mechanical pencil. A paper cup sat beside her untouched. I pointed at it. That coffee is going to give you a migraine. Her hand stopped. Only a few people knew she avoided caffeine after lunch. I knew because 3 years earlier during a hotel reopening in St. Louis, I had found her walking the lobby at 2 o'clock in the morning. A double espresso had left her unable to sleep. You remembered, she said. That isn't the conversation. No. I placed the Bay Lantern photos on the table. I backed out. Don't sound pleased. I'm pleased you didn't buy a building with a potentially failing foundation. I also called the county. The shoreline issue is real. I know. That's the problem. Serena sat down her pencil. I found out because Northmere investigated the property. You also knew my closing date. The broker told our acquisitions team the competing buyer wanted to move quickly and somebody told you the competing buyer was me. Yes. I pulled out a chair but didn't sit. Serena, this is the boundary. She studied my face. If I leave this company and try to build something of my own, you do not get to use Northmere to manage my life. I wasn't managing it. You were close. I gave you information I couldn't have gotten on my own. You did get it on your own today. After you told me where to look, a muscle moved in her jaw. She didn't like this conversation. That didn't matter. I'm serious. I said, you don't call brokers for me. You don't send lawyers. You don't make offers disappear. You don't decide which property I should buy because you have more money, more people, or better access. Her eyes went cold again. Not angry, defensive. If I see you walking toward a hole, you expect me to say nothing? I expect you to tell me there's a hole once. And if you keep walking, that's my mistake to make. She leaned back. I could almost see her trying to solve me like an operations problem. Finally, she reached for one of the cream-colored index cards she kept beside her laptop. She wrote something. I had seen her do that for years. Every difficult decision went onto one of those cards. Once the decision was finished, she tore off the upper right corner. What did you write? She turned it around. Miles gets to make bad decisions without my permission. I laughed before I could stop myself. That is not exactly the principle. It is close enough. Then she tore off the corner. I looked at her. Decision made. Yes. You hated deeply. That was Serena. She didn't like uncertainty. She treated every undefined variable like a leaking pipe. And apparently I had become the largest undefined variable in her life. She folded her hands. Now I have a boundary. You get one. I am extremely fair. Debatable. Her mouth almost curved. When your last day arrives, you are not allowed to disappear without answering one question. I already knew the question. Dinner? Yes, I can answer now. Her expression sharpened. No, you are still my employee. I refuse to accept an answer until you are not. That is the most Serena Wren approach to asking someone out I have ever heard. I'm aware. I shook my head. Fine. Ask me after my last day. Her eyes softened for half a second. Then I added, but the answer might still be no. I know. You don't look like you believe that. I believe you are capable of saying it. That's different. Yes. I left before she could convert that into another index card. The next morning, Marcus called me into his office. He closed the door and handed me a transition plan. You're leaving us in 25 days, he said. Serena approved this last night. I scanned the first page, no retention bonus, no extended notice, no consulting requirement. Every project I own was being transferred cleanly. Northmere was even waiving a clause that could have limited me from working with independent hotels for 6 months after departure. I frowned. Why would she waive this? Marcus gave me a strange look. Because you asked her not to use the company to control what happens after you leave. I said nothing. He pointed to the signature. Serena's dated 10:43 p.m. She had legal rewrite it within 4 hours. That was the first time I understood how Serena showed restraint. Not by doing nothing, by taking all the power she had and deliberately putting some of it down. Serena did not ask about my property search again. For 4 days she behaved exactly like my CEO. That should have made things easier. It didn't. The problem was that once I knew what she wanted, all the tiny things I had ignored for years became impossible to ignore. At a regional review, she slid a packet toward me before anyone else arrived. Inside was the maintenance data I had asked accounting for. Nothing personal, nothing inappropriate, but clipped to the front was a packet of ginger chews. I looked at her. What are these? You get motion sick when you read in cars. I haven't traveled with you in 8 months. You still get motion sick. At lunch, she ordered 12 box meals for the executive team. Mine was the only one without mayonnaise. At 4 o'clock, I walked into her office and found her standing beside an open filing cabinet. Inside one drawer were neat rows of cream index cards. I noticed one with my name. She closed the drawer immediately. What was that? Nothing. Serena, no. You have a card about me. I have several. How many? That question will not improve your day. My curiosity won. Show me. No. I folded my arms. You publicly declared yourself my wife before ever asking me on a date, but the index cards are private. Correct. That logic is terrible. My logic is excellent. My judgment regarding you is occasionally defective. That almost got me. Almost. Then my phone buzzed. It was Ellen Pike, a broker in Door County. She had another property, smaller than Bay Lantern, older and definitely uglier. The Cedar Wake Motor Lodge had 18 rooms, peeling blue railings, a broken outdoor sign, and a view of the bay that made me forget every problem it had for approximately 10 seconds. I drove up Saturday morning. By Sunday afternoon I wanted it. The place needed electrical work, new plumbing in 6 rooms, and a complete redesign of the front office. But the foundation was solid. The roof had 5 good years left. The books were honest. Most importantly, I could afford it without asking anyone for a favor. I called Ellen. I want to make an offer. Then I should tell you there's another interested party. My stomach tightened. Northmere. No local developer. They'd probably tear it down and build condos. That changed the equation. I spent the next 3 hours walking every room again. This was where my actual ability mattered. Most buyers saw bad carpets, chipped tile, and old furniture. I saw systems. The water heaters were oversized. The laundry room could be moved to free 2 guest rooms. Half the electrical upgrade the seller expected wasn't necessary if the kitchen equipment was replaced with lower load units. I recalculated the renovation cost in my truck. Then I made an offer 12% below asking with a 10-day inspection period and proof I could close quickly. Ellen called Monday morning. They accepted. For the first time since I had submitted my resignation, the future felt real. I didn't tell Serena. Not because I wanted to hide it, because I needed to prove to myself that one major decision in my life could exist without passing through her orbit. She found out anyway, not through surveillance, through me. At Wednesday's operations meeting, Marcus asked what I planned to do after Northmere. I answered, honestly, I'm buying an 18-room motor lodge. Serena's head lifted. Marcus grinned. Seriously, if inspection goes clean, where? Like Harbor? Serena knew Door County well enough to guess. Cedar Wake. I narrowed my eyes. She raised both hands slightly. Northmere did not investigate it. How did you know? I have driven past it 27 times. Marcus stared at her. I did too. You counted. I remember roads. That part was true. Serena could walk through a hotel once and remember where every emergency exit, ice machine, utility room, and loading door was located. She looked at me. Congratulations. That was all. No offer to help. No warnings, no questions. And somehow her restraint made me want to tell her everything. That evening, I made the mistake of staying late. At 8:30, I found Serena in the lobby on her way out. She had removed her heels and was carrying them in one hand. I had only seen her barefoot at work once before during a flooded hotel opening when she spent 18 straight hours moving furniture. Tough day. The board wants me in New York 4 days next week. You hate New York. I hate wasting 4 days discussing things that could be solved in one afternoon. I held up my laptop bag. Welcome to executive leadership. She glanced at me. Come to dinner. I blinked. You said you'd wait. I'm not asking you on a date. What are you asking? For food in a public restaurant where you can leave at any time. Sounds suspiciously like dinner. I have eaten dinner with hundreds of employees. Did you tell any of them you were their only wife? Her eyes narrowed. No. Then we should probably wait. For the first time since the conference room disaster, I gave her a real refusal. I expected an argument. Instead, she nodded. 21 days. What? Until your last day? You're counting? Yes. That's slightly insane. I know. Then she slipped her heels back on, picked up her bag and walked outside. I stood in the lobby smiling like an idiot. That was when I realized I had a new problem. I wasn't afraid Serena would stop me from leaving anymore. I was starting to wonder whether I actually wanted distance from her. Once I did, the Cedar Wake inspection came back cleaner than expected. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I spent most of Tuesday angry. Not at the property, at Serena. Marcus had accidentally sent me the wrong transition folder. Buried inside was a document labeled Keaton Departure Contingency Executive Review. It was dated 6 weeks before my fake marriage joke. I opened it expecting a retention plan. What I found made no sense. Serena had recommended against offering me more money. She had opposed tying my annual bonus to an extended service agreement. She had instructed legal to waive my restrictive covenant if I left to operate an independent property. And in a note beside my name she had written, "He has spent 8 years making our properties work. Do not turn that experience into a reason he cannot build his own." I read the line 3 times. There was more. Northmere's acquisitions team had considered making a second offer on Bay Lantern after the seller dropped the price. Serena had killed the proposal. The reason was written in the margin. Miles has an active personal offer. We do not compete with an employee for his exit plan. I closed the folder, then opened it again because some part of me expected the words to change. They didn't. For 2 weeks, I had assumed Serena was fighting herself not to interfere with my life. The truth was more complicated. She had been protecting my ability to leave before I even knew she wanted me to stay. I found Marcus in the parking garage. "You sent me the wrong file." He winced. "Damn. Did Serena write all of this?" "Yes." "When did she find out I was considering leaving?" "You remember asking me for advice about small property financing 2 months ago." "I'm not stupid, Miles." "You told her?" "I told the CEO one of our strongest operations people might leave. That's my job. And she did this." Marcus leaned against his car. She was furious. I frowned. Me? At herself mostly. For what? For not seeing it earlier. That sounded like Serena. Marcus continued. She asked whether we could create a role big enough to keep you. My chest tightened and I said probably. Then why didn't she? Because the next thing she asked was whether you'd still want your own place even if we doubled your salary. I already knew the answer. Marcus did too. She told us not to make leaving harder. That was the middle of the story, although I didn't know it yet. The point where everything I had believed about Serena's behavior shifted. She wasn't learning to let me go because I demanded it after the conference room disaster. She had decided to let me go while believing I might never come back, and she had still planned to ask me out afterward. I went upstairs. Serena was in a strategy meeting. I waited. 40 minutes later, 7 executives came out looking exhausted. Serena remained at the table collecting index cards. I placed the transition document in front of her. Her expression sharpened. Marcus accident. I'm going to kill him. You're not a disappointing limitation. I sat across from her. Why didn't you tell me which part? That you stopped the company from bidding on Bay Lantern. You asked me not to interfere. That happened later. Yes. So why? She picked up one of the cards. Didn't write on it. Because if Northmere bought the property simply because I knew you wanted it, I would have been using my position against you. You wanted me to stay. Yes. You could have offered me more money. Yes, you didn't? No. What? That was the first question that made Serena look away. She stared at the dark conference room window. When I was 12, my mother left home on a Tuesday. I said nothing. Serena rarely talked about family. She packed while I was at school. My father said there had been signs. I thought that was ridiculous. Something mattered, why would you wait for signs? Why wouldn't you ask? Why wouldn't you prepare? Her fingers tightened around the card. I decided uncertainty was just another word for poor planning. Suddenly, a lot of things made sense. The backup plans, the index cards, the way she memorized exits, the way she could tolerate disasters more easily than unanswered questions. You plan people too. I said, yes, that's dangerous. I know. And the HR memo. She gave a small, humorless laugh. I spent 2 weeks trying to decide how to ask you to dinner without making you feel cornered. And then I wore a fake wedding ring and destroyed 2 weeks of planning in 6 seconds. I smiled despite myself. Her gaze returned to mine. Miles, I wanted to keep you. The words were quieter now. I still do. My heartbeat changed. But wanting something and having the right to take it are different. That was the sentence I needed from her. Not I love you. Not another claim. I leaned back. My offer on Cedar Wake was accepted. Serena's eyes widened just slightly. I'm closing if final financing clears. She nodded. Good. I'm going to leave. I know. I mean actually leave. No consulting, no secret role, no part-time rescue calls. A shadow crossed her face. I know. And after that, you can ask me your question. She studied me. You sound as if the answer improved. Don't get greedy. Her mouth curved barely. Then she reached into the filing cabinet. She took out one of the cards I had seen with my name. She slid it across the table. I read it. If Miles leaves, let him. If he comes back, make sure it is because he chose to. The date at the bottom was 7 weeks old. I looked up. Serena had gone perfectly still. Was that one of the cards you didn't want me to see? Yes. What? Because it makes me sound more emotionally functional than I am. I laughed so hard I had to put the card down. And for the first time, Serena laughed with me. My financing cleared on a Friday. I signed the purchase agreement Monday. 10 days later, Cedar Wake officially became mine. That should have been the biggest thing happening in my life. Instead, the entire Northmere headquarters had decided I was secretly dating our CEO. Leah was responsible for at least 30% of the rumors. You realize she told me at lunch that nobody believes the marriage thing was a joke anymore. It was literally a joke. Sure, but then Serena said she was your wife. Not helping. And now you're leaving for an inn. People think you're leaving because HR discovered your forbidden corporate romance. There is no corporate romance yet. I pointed my fork at her. You've been talking to Serena. Leah smiled. Absolutely not. I value my life. The rumors would have been funny if they weren't beginning to create real consequences. One of my project managers asked Marcus whether my promotion the previous year had been connected to Serena. A vendor made a joke about special access. Then a board member questioned whether my transition package had been unusually generous. That crossed a line, not because it hurt my feelings, because I had spent 8 years building a reputation I wanted to take with me. I went straight to Serena. She was on a call. I waited outside her office until she finished. Then I walked in and closed the door. We have a problem. She saw my face and put down her phone. What happened? I told her. By the time I finished, her expression had become glacial. I'll handle it. No. She stopped that sentence again. I mean it. Miles, someone is questioning your professional record because of me. Yes. So I will correct it. However necessary. That is exactly what I don't want. Her eyes narrowed. If you go after people for gossiping, you prove their point. I am capable of handling this without firing anyone. Good, because you are not firing anyone. I heard you and you are not ordering people to stop talking. I heard you, Serena. Her fingers moved toward an index card, then stopped. That tiny motion told me she was fighting every instinct she had. What do you want? She asked. That mattered. Not what she thought would fix it. What I wanted. I want a clean record. Facts, nothing more. She nodded. The next morning, Dana sent a company-wide notice. It did not mention romance. It did not threaten anyone. It simply confirmed that my resignation had been initiated by me, that my compensation history predated Serena's direct oversight, and that the waiver of my restrictive covenant was consistent with updated Northmere policy for departing operations employees. Then Serena did something I didn't expect. At the afternoon leadership meeting, she addressed the issue herself. I made an inappropriate personal statement in a professional setting, she said. No excuses, no polished language. The responsibility for that statement is mine. Miles Keaton received no professional advantage from it, and any suggestion that his record was built on my personal feelings is false. One board member shifted uncomfortably. Serena continued, I have removed myself from all remaining decisions involving his departure. Marcus will handle them. That cost her something, not money, control, which for Serena might have been worse. She looked toward me only once, then continued the meeting. Afterward, I waited beside the elevators. When she came out, I said, thank you. I caused the problem. You also fixed it without crushing anyone. I wanted to crush several people. I know. Dana prevented me from drafting names. I smiled. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside. I followed. For the first few floors, neither of us said anything. Then Serena said, 9 days. I looked over. Until I leave. Yes, you're still counting. I have shown remarkable restraint. You asked me to dinner once. Exactly. The elevator stopped on 21. A woman from legal stepped in. Serena became instantly expressionless. The woman glanced between us. Nobody spoke until she got off at 16. The doors closed again. Serena turned toward me. I hate this. What? Pretending I do not want you because other people are present. There it was. The intense part of Serena wasn't screaming, threatening, or locking doors. It was the absolute certainty with which she wanted things. When she loved a restaurant, she ordered the same meal for 3 years. When she trusted a contractor, she remembered his children's birthdays. When she chose a hotel, she could tell you the room number where she had first noticed the lobby lighting was wrong. And when she chose me, apparently subtlety had been given a brief trial and rejected. You can want me, I said. You just can't own me. Her eyes held mine. I know. The elevator reached the lobby. She stepped out, then turned. But when you finally say yes, I intend to be extremely annoying about it. That sounds threatening. It is a promise. My last day at Northmere arrived on a rainy Thursday. I expected Serena to make it difficult. She didn't. That was almost worse. There was no dramatic farewell, no executive lunch, no expensive gift. Marcus shook my hand. Dana hugged me. Leah gave me a framed photograph of the conference room with a small piece of black tape covering the chair where Serena had been standing when she declared herself my wife. Serena stayed in meetings until 5. At 5:15 I carried my last box toward the elevator. Her office door opened. Miles, I turned. She had changed out of her suit jacket. The sleeves of her white shirt were rolled to her elbows and her hair, normally pinned perfectly, had started coming loose near one temple. She looked tired. Human, you forgot something, she said. What? She held up a small black notebook. Mine? I used it during property inspections. Where was that? My car. Oh. You left it there after the Madison trip. That was 9 months ago. Yes. You've had it for 9 months. You never asked. I took it from her. Inside the cover was my handwriting. A list from that trip. Boiler noise. Loading dock drainage. Guest flow. Lobby scent too strong. Below it in Serena's handwriting was one sentence. You were right about the lobby. I smiled. Couldn't admit it verbally. I was CO. Still are. Yes. We stood there with the entire hallway suddenly feeling too small. Then she looked at my box. This is the part where you leave. Yeah. Her expression tightened. She wanted to stop me. I knew it. She knew I knew it. But she stepped aside. I walked to the elevator. The doors opened. I put the box down inside, then looked back. Serena was still standing outside. I remembered her rule. One question after my last day. Technically, I still had an employee badge clipped to my belt. I removed it, dropped it into the return envelope in my box. Okay. I said, I don't work for you anymore. Serena's composure disappeared. Not completely, but enough. She came toward the elevator before the doors could close and put one hand between them. The doors reopened. Dinner, she said. That's not a question. Have dinner with me. Still not technically a question. Her eyes flashed. Miles? I laughed. Then I answered, no. She went motionless. This time my refusal was real. Her hands slowly lowered. I stepped out of the elevator again. Not tonight. She blinked. I continued. I've spent the last month leading one life. Tomorrow I start another. I need to know I can do that without immediately building the next one around you. Something in her face softened. That is annoyingly reasonable. I learned from you. No, you didn't. I would have scheduled the transition. I know. I picked up my box. Give me 2 weeks. Her eyes narrowed. 14 days. Yes, exactly. Serena, 12. 2 weeks. She considered negotiating, then didn't. Fine. The elevator doors began closing again. At the last second she said, Miles? What? I'm still your only future wife. The doors closed before I could answer. I laughed all the way to the parking garage. Then I spent the next 14 days finding out whether Cedar Wake was going to destroy me. 3 rooms had plumbing leaks. The commercial dryer died. 2 employees quit after learning I intended to renovate during the slow season. A contractor underestimated the electrical work by $11,000. And I loved every second of it. I was exhausted, terrified, happy. For the first time in years, every good decision and every bad decision belonged to me. Serena did not interfere. She sent no lawyers, no contractors, no spreadsheets. She didn't even text. On day 11 I almost texted her first. I stopped myself. On day 13 I stopped pretending I wasn't counting too. On day 14 at exactly 6:02 p.m. my phone rang. Serena, I answered. You lasted 12 minutes longer than I expected. It took me 12 minutes to decide whether calling at 6 o'clock exactly looked desperate. It did. I hate you. No, you don't. A beat passed. Then she said, dinner? I looked around the half-renovated lobby of Cedar Wake. Plastic covered the old reception desk. A ladder stood beside the fireplace. One entire wall was waiting for paint. Change of plans. Her voice cooled. You're canceling? No. I smiled. Come here. To the inn. Yes. For dinner, if you don't mind, pizza on the floor. How long does it take to get there? 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'll be there in 2:20. Do not speed. The call ended. 2 hours and 27 minutes later, headlights swept across Cedar Wake's front windows. Serena had lost 7 minutes. She looked furious about it. She arrived wearing jeans. That surprised me more than the 200-mile drive. No driver, no assistant, no laptop bag, just Serena, a navy sweater, a bottle of wine, and the same controlled expression she wore to board meetings. I opened the door. She looked around the stripped lobby. This is terrible. Good evening to you too. The carpet is worse than the listing. I know the front desk blocks traffic. I know that light fixture is a crime. I know. She turned toward me. You love it? Yeah, that shut her up. For once, Serena didn't have a better argument. We ate pizza on flattened cardboard boxes because I had removed most of the lobby furniture. I told her about the plumbing, the dryer, the contractor. She listened. Actually listened. She did not tell me which vendor Northmere used. She did not offer a project manager. She did not ask to see my budget. After 20 minutes, I noticed you're suffering immensely because you're not fixing anything. My left eye has been twitching since I saw the electrical panel. I laughed. She took a drink of wine. Then she looked toward the dark windows facing the bay. I thought letting you leave would be the hardest part. It wasn't. No. What is being here and not turning this into something I know how to control? There was no performance in her voice. No CEO tone, just Serena. I put my pizza down. You're doing okay. I have 17 suggestions. Keep 16. Her eyes narrowed. Fine. What's the one? The light fixture truly is terrible. I looked up. She was right. I hated that. Fine. It goes. Serena smiled. It was small and devastating. We spent the next hour walking through the property. In room 9 she found a window that wouldn't latch. In room 12 she pointed out that the closet door blocked the bathroom entrance. At the end of the second floor hall she stopped at the vending alcove. You should remove this. Suggestion number 2. This one is important. What? Because the view is behind it. I stepped beside her. She was right again. Through the window behind the vending machine, moonlight reflected across the bay. I didn't even notice. You were looking at systems and exits. I glanced at her. She realized what she had said. For years, Serena's brain had entered every unfamiliar place by looking for the way out. I reached for her hand. She stopped breathing. It was the first time I had touched her deliberately. Not passing a file, not shaking hands, not helping her over a construction barrier. Her fingers closed around mine so quickly it was almost funny. Careful, I said. You're going to ruin your reputation. I don't care. I know. We stood there for a while. Then Serena said, Are you going to kiss me? Possibly. That is not an efficient answer. You're not at work. I still dislike inefficiency. I turned toward her. She was watching me with the same focus she gave a failing hotel. Except this time there was no plan in her hands, no card, no authority, nothing between us except a choice. I kissed her for maybe 3 seconds. Serena did absolutely nothing. Then both hands caught the front of my shirt and she kissed me back with enough intensity to explain every carefully controlled conversation we had ever had. When we separated, I was laughing. What? She still had my shirt in both fists. I think you've been waiting 28 months. I stared at her. What? She released my shirt. Too late, Serena. Number 28 months. It is not important. That is extremely important. She tried to walk away. I caught her hand. When did this start? She looked offended by the question. The Phoenix renovation. That was more than 2 years ago. You stayed awake 30 hours because 3 families were displaced by a sprinkler failure. That was my job. You gave your hotel room to a grandmother and slept in the office. There were no rooms. You argued with me for 12 minutes because I wanted to charge the displaced guests a discounted rate. You wanted to charge them. I was wrong. You never say that. I say it privately. I shook my head. You have been planning to ask me out for 28 months. No, I have been trying not to ask you out for 28 months. That was somehow worse. And the index cards? She looked toward the stairs. How many, Serena? 11. You have 11 cards about me. Some are obsolete. I laughed until my stomach hurt. She looked irritated. Then she started laughing too. That was the night we became something. Not husband and wife. Not even officially boyfriend and girlfriend. Something more dangerous. 2 people who finally knew the answer existed, but still had to decide what to do with it. And the decision became real 3 weeks later when Serena's board offered her something she had spent 10 years trying to earn. Northmere wanted to move its executive headquarters to New York. They wanted Serena there full-time. Serena told me about New York on a Sunday morning. We were installing new shelves behind Cedar Wake's front desk. By we, I mean I was installing them while Serena was holding the level and criticizing my measurements. They want me there by January, she said. I stopped drilling. Full-time. Yes, that's big. Yes. Northmere had been expanding east for years. A New York headquarters would put Serena closer to investors, lenders, and half the company's growth markets. This was not a promotion. She was already CEO. It was the life her career had been pointing toward. What do you want? I asked. She lowered the level. I don't know. That answer scared me more than if she had said yes. Serena always knew. I sat on the edge of the desk. You don't have to choose around me. I know. I mean it. I know. If New York is the right move, go. Her eyes sharpened. You are very bad at being possessive. One of us has that covered. I could fly back. Serena, 3 times a week. That sounds miserable. I own an airplane. You do not personally own an airplane. I have access to one. That sentence is exactly why this relationship is weird. She almost smiled. Then the seriousness returned. The board wants an answer Friday. Then give them the answer that makes sense for your life. She studied me. Our life is part of my life. The words hit harder than any declaration she had made. Even harder than I'm your only wife. Because this time she wasn't claiming me. She was including me. There's something else. She said, of course there is. They want the relocation written into my 5-year contract. So if you sign, I commit to New York. 5 years. I looked through the front windows toward the bay. Cedar Wake would open officially in 12 days. My entire life was becoming rooted here at the exact moment hers might move 900 miles away. For the next week, neither of us tried to force an answer. That was new for Serena and difficult for me. I had spent so much time defending my independence that I hadn't expected the moment when her choice might take her away. Friday came. Cedar Wake's final inspection was scheduled for 4. Serena's board vote was at 11 o'clock in Milwaukee. At 10:45 she called. I'm going in. Okay. I hate this. I know you are not going to tell me what to do. No, terrible boyfriend. We've never actually used that word. She was quiet. Then very softly, I have. My chest tightened. Go to your meeting, Serena. What if I make the wrong decision? Then it'll be yours. For someone like Serena, that might have been the most loving thing I could say. She ended the call. At 11:30 the fire inspector arrived. At noon he found a problem with the rear stairwell handrail. At 12:20 my carpenter stopped answering his phone. At 1 o'clock I drove 30 miles to buy the correct brackets myself. At 2:15 I was drilling new supports into the wall when Leah called. You busy? Very. You should check the business news. No, Miles. Unless Northmere has exploded. I have a stair rail to fix. Serena rejected New York. My drill stopped. What? She signed the new contract, but she removed the relocation clause. I sat back on my heels. Oh. She gave up the expansion authority attached to it. What does that mean? It means the board appointed Marcus to lead the East Coast expansion. Serena stays CEO, but she gave up direct control of the biggest growth project in the company. I closed my eyes. There it was. The cost. Not destroying her career. Not abandoning everything she had built. Something harder for Serena. Choosing not to control all of it. Did she do that because of me? Leah snorted. You'll have to ask your wife. She is not my wife. Tell her that. I enjoy watching you survive dangerous situations. The line went dead. At 4:10 Cedar Wake passed inspection. At 5 the staff opened the front doors. At 5:12 the first guest checked in. At 5:26, Serena walked through the lobby. She was still wearing the charcoal suit from the board meeting. No entourage, no announcement, just Serena. I met her beside the front desk. You gave up the East Coast division. I delegated it. You hate delegating. I am evolving. Did you do it because of me? She looked around the lobby. The terrible light fixture was gone. The vending machine had been moved through the uncovered window. The bay glowed gold under the late afternoon sun. I did it because I spent 10 years building a life where every important decision belonged to the company. Her eyes came back to mine. I don't want the next 10 years to look the same. Serena. And before you say something responsible and irritating, I did not give up being CEO. I noticed I did not sacrifice my company. I know I made Marcus do more work. That part warrants support. Her mouth curved. Then she reached into her handbag. I immediately became suspicious. What? She pulled out a cream-colored index card. Of course she did. You brought a decision card? Yes. She handed it to me. There were 3 lines. New York? No. Miles? Yes. Temporary? No. I looked up. Serena's face was composed, but her fingers were trembling. That terrified me more than any boardroom version of her ever had. What does temporary mean? She reached into the bag again. This time she took out a small ring box. I stopped breathing. Around us, guests moved through the lobby. My new receptionist was pretending not to watch. 2 Northmere managers who had driven up for the opening were absolutely watching. Serena didn't care. For once, neither did I. She opened the box. A plain platinum band. No giant diamond. No ridiculous CEO display. Exactly the kind of ring I would have chosen. 28 months, she said. I tried not to want you. I smiled. That went badly. Extremely. Then you publicly declared yourself my wife. A tactical error. Catastrophic. Dana still mentions it. She should. Serena took one step closer. I was wrong about one thing. I said I was your only wife before you had chosen me. Her voice lowered. I don't want to do that again. There was the whole story. Not in the ring. Not in New York. Not even in the 2 years she had quietly wanted me. In the fact that Serena Wren, who planned everything, controlled everything, and treated uncertainty like an enemy, was standing in my lobby without knowing what I would say. She held out the ring. Miles Keaton, will you marry me? The woman who had once ordered me to divorce an imaginary wife was finally asking. So, naturally, I made her suffer for 3 seconds. I rubbed my chin. Interesting proposal. Her eyes narrowed. Miles. I need to consider the operational impact. Miles. Possibly commission a feasibility study. She grabbed the front of my shirt. There she was. My board meeting was easier than this. I laughed. Then I covered her hand with mine. Yes. All the tension left her face at once. Not dramatically. Serena never did anything dramatically unless a fake wedding ring was involved. She simply closed her eyes for a second and rested her forehead against mine. Then she opened them. You're sure that question mattered too? Yes. She kissed me before anyone in the lobby could start clapping. They did anyway. When she pulled back, she slid the ring onto my finger and stared at it with an expression of deep satisfaction. I looked down, feeling better. Much. Because now you have documentation. I like documentation. I laughed. She reached for the cream index card. What are you doing? Serena tore off the upper right corner. Decision made. Then she slipped the card into my shirt pocket, took my hand, and looked around the lobby of the little inn I had once thought I might have to choose instead of her. I hadn't stayed in Northmere. She hadn't abandoned her company. Neither of us had surrendered the life we wanted. We had simply stopped treating love like one of us had to lose. Serena squeezed my hand. So I knew that tone. What? When are we getting married? We became engaged 12 seconds ago, correct? And you already want a date? I waited 28 months. I leaned closer. You know what? After that conference room disaster, I think you've earned one request. Her eyes brightened. Tomorrow. I laughed. No. Sunday. No. Next Saturday. Serena. She kissed me again, then whispered against my mouth. Fine. But I meant what I said the first day. What part? Her arms slid around my neck. The only wife part. This time I didn't argue. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.